A very good evening to everyone. This is Manvi Jha, and I welcome you all on behalf of Developers Student Club and Hack/Developers Club in IT Patna to this workshop organized by Hack and ITP 3.0. We are live all the way from NIT Patna and present before you today's workshop to introduce you to UX. We are thrilled to welcome the speaker of today's session, Charu ma'am. Welcome, ma'am. Let me give you a quick introduction about Charu ma'am. She's a UX designer with more than 7 years of experience and is currently at Google building intelligent based experiences to empower customer engagement of Google products. Before this, she was at Microsoft, where she was designing the first Microsoft Office app for Android and iOS, focusing on consumer as well as enterprise market. She also has a significant contribution in Microsoft Fluent open source design system. She has also worked with product team responsible for shipping Microsoft Sticky Notes and OneNote on Android and iOS. With all this brilliant and remarkable work at Microsoft, ma'am has also worked with Zomato, wherein she designed experiences for Zomato Gold version 1, food ordering, redesign of Zomato consumer app, and also revamped the visual language across Zomato apps. So, on a wrap up, today we have amongst us a very talented, experienced, and amazingly beautiful person. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, I think your mic isn't unmuted. I think you would. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, it's audible now.
Oh, yeah. So I was saying thank you firstly for such a warm welcome, and thank you everyone for joining today. I hope you can hear me now, right? Um,
Yes,
so,
thank you, ma'am.
okay. So today I wanted to talk about introduction to UX design, user experience design, and this session might be helpful for you if you are interested in design or if you're starting out. Even if you've already started out, it might help you in knowing more about design as a domain. So I can start sharing my screen, and please let me know if you can see it. Can you all see my screen now? Yeah. Uh, cool. So, hi everyone. Just trying to put this on full screen. Not sure. Give me a second. Yeah. Can you all see me now? See my screen properly? Please say yes because I cannot see the comments right now. So you can unmute yourself and let me know if you can see my screen properly.
Yes, ma'am, your screen is completely visible.
Okay, thank you so much, Manvi. So, hi everyone, I'm Charu. Although Manvi already introduced me, but I'll just take few minutes to introduce myself again. So, as she said, I am currently working in Google, and I actually started last year here. And currently, I am working on customer engagement across Google products, and I also design a lot of intelligence-based experiences over here. Before joining Google, I worked at Microsoft where I was working on the Microsoft Office app, and I was there for a few years. And these are the products or the apps which I worked on or my work touched in some way or the other. And I started my career in Zomato, where I was a product designer for a few years again, and I got the opportunity to work on the different platforms in Zomato, wherein I again worked on several types of products, including the main app, ordering app, and a lot of other subscription plans, and a lot of other things. Um, And today I want to take this time to give you an introduction to user experience as a field. Some of you might be aware of a lot of things which I share over here. For some of you it might be new. So feel free to ask questions or drop in your questions in the comments, and we can take them later at the end of this presentation. So I don't know if you all know, but I really want to talk about how did UX start as a field, and it might really surprise you that it's a very old field, but it has come into picture in last few years. But it actually started long time back, and you might have heard about Feng Shui, which is actually a Chinese philosophy. And what used to happen in Feng Shui was that Chinese people used to design interiors wherein they wanted to make the navigation easier for the people living in those houses, and make it more intuitive and user friendly. And this was the time when we didn't know that user experience design is a term in itself, but it kind of started occurring from that time, right? And you might know who this guy is, um, and you might take a guess and drop in the comments. But if you already know, so this guy is Walt Disney, and you can see that he's kind of having a discussion with his team around the Disneyland. And this was the one of the main turns in design industry uh, when Walt Disney started designing movies and Disneyland, and they kind of took it very seriously. They didn't design it as other animated movies or other kind of experiences, but it was very different because they had extremely focused attention to details, and they try to improve their experience as with time. And they tried a lot to like hear the feedback, what people are saying about Disneyland, and kind of kept on improving on that. And if you actually I looked at this picture, and this is a picture of 10 commandments from Disneyland, and it talked about how you should know your audience, and you should wear their shoes when you're designing anything like anything, a Disney movie or anything, any experience around Disneyland. You should try to tell a story, and try to design the flow and the people and ideas together. So it might sound all quite familiar to you, right? And this was actually the beginning of user experience. But later, then this guy came in, and he is kind of the father of user experience, Don Norman, who actually coined the term user experience, which we all use now, which we also call UX. And it kind of compasses all aspects of end user interaction with the company, its services, and all kinds of its products, be it email, be it like physical product, be it anything. But all kind of experiences actually today are called user experiences, right? And now that you already know what it is, you might have a question that how do you say it's a good design or bad design, right? It's not like there is a right or wrong formula through which you can calculate, right? It's not like that. But there are still certain principles which can help you in defining what a good design or a good user experience seems like, right? And one of the books, if you want to get started in design, is this, which is called The Design of Everyday Things. You might have read it if you've already started learning more about design. But what this book talks about is the features of good design, the 6 main features of good design, and it's again written by Don Norman. And these points they might help you in defining that, is this something which you're looking at, is this an example of good design, is this well design, or it's bad design, right? um, let me take you through these in a bit of detail so that you can understand them better. So the first point here is discoverability. And when I say discoverability, what do you understand by it? It's actually um, how you can discover things, right? Like what is visible to you. So if you know, when you look at a design, you know that maybe this is the functionality which I want to use. If you can see it up front, then it's a good design, right? If you're facing a lot of complexity in finding what you want to do with it, then this might be an example of a bad design and you need some improvement. I'll show you some examples visually. This is a screen from long back, and it's a screen of Microsoft Word. And if you ask me, that is this an example of good design or bad design, what do you think I'll say? Um, and I cannot hear you, but I'm sure you might say, I'm sure you all will say, and you all will agree with me that it's an example of bad design, because what is happening here is, there you can see so many icons, so many things on the screen. You cannot really, if you just want to pick a pen and start writing, I think you will take a few minutes to navigate through this and kind of find exactly what you want to do. So this is a complicated design, and you cannot discover what you're looking for. So it's an example of bad design, in my opinion. Now this is a screen which you all might be familiar of. I've just picked few examples from the web, but in my opinion, it's a good design. Again, there are lots of things in the screen, but maybe it's the categorization which has happened over here, or the way it's structured. I feel like I can discover things if I'm looking for like something. I know that there's a search box, I can start typing over here. So I kind of understand how I can navigate through this web page, Amazon's web page. So I will say, consider this an example of good design. The second point here is feedback. Feedback, I think, is as you all know, feedback means like somebody telling you that something is happening, some like giving you kind of a reaction, right? In simple words, if I put it in very simple words. And that's what a good design should be like. You should know as a user that okay, if you press that button, something happened, right? Something is happening. You should be informed, well informed. You should get that feedback. For example, um, there's this small video where you can clearly see, like in the right button over here, if I tap, you see a minor change in the text. It might get unnoticed, but over here you can see that you tapped on save, and there's a loader which starts rotating, and you know your whatever you have done, it's saving. So you kind of get that assurance, and you know you got that feedback. And that's why I will say this design comforts me more, right? So I will say this is an example of good design of a button. Third point here is constraints. And when you're talking about design, constraints are very important, and you need to constrain whatever you're designing so that users have limited choices. You don't give all the choices so that they get confused. So constraints is very important, and you have to pick them intelligently. One good example is this login screen. So why would I say that this is a constrained design? So one way of looking at it is that here you already, since you can just see the keypad, you already know that the only thing you can put in here is digits. You cannot put in letters here. Simple. So that gives you, like, that limits your options. You already kind of know that you have to put a number here, and this, I would say, it's a good example of keeping constraints, but at the same time limiting users choices and creating good user experience. Fourth one I would say here is mapping. And mapping, what it means in simple words is that you kind of map the relationship between what users are doing to what effect will it have in the world. In simple example, if you look at the screen, you all might be familiar with this. It's just a screenshot of WhatsApp. And what happens is, when I'm typing over here, The main thing which is highlighted is that button on the side, which is a big blue button and with an arrow. It just shows me that the closest thing which I can do here is send that message, and this message will get sent if I tap on that button. There is no text, but I kind of know just by looking at the way it's designed. So that I think is a good example of mapping. The fifth point here is consistency. And consistency, you might have heard this term a lot of times, that in your regular lives. And when it comes to design, we say that when you're designing a product and you're designing several maybe screens, you should keep few things consistent so that users do not need to learn everything again and again. Again, taking an example of WhatsApp, if you look at the chat screen and the call screen, you know that the message button and like adding a new message and or placing a new call kind of happens with the same button, and it's in the same place in both the screens. So this is a good example of having consistency across designs. And lastly, I want to point this out with this point is also very critical, which is affordance. So affordance means that you give an attribute to an object that users know how to use it. They somehow can figure out, like if you if it's a well designed door, you'll automatically know if it's a pull door or a push door. It's a very common example in design. And similarly, if you look at any app, you can to understand like what of anything works like, right? For example, a toggle button, you might have seen this a lot of times. Even if you ignore the text, you know that if this button is blue and if it's on the right side, you know it's turned on, and if it's on the left side, it's turned off, right? And in the other example, you know that proceed is like so big and bigger button, you know that that might be the primary action which you should take in, and maybe later is something that will delay it. You kind of just understand, and you know that you have to tap on that button. So this is how I say that this is how you can define what good design is. And now I hope you already understand, and you can in your surroundings you can start noticing that is this product a well designed product, is this product not is this product poorly designed. And I can tell you that this applies on everything around you, not just a app screen or a web screen, but even if you go beyond screens, like look at any product around you, like a notebook or a cup or anything else, you can find good design, examples of good design as well as bad design. So that's about it. And whenever you see that something is well designed, you can call it that this is a good example of good UX, right? And lastly, I want to cover a few myths which are actually floating around these days in when it comes to UX design. And you might have heard it frequently, read things frequently, and you might be getting confused if you are completely new to the field. So I want to address few of those. First thing I want to address is the titles. And we all, if you have tried to just put in on Google and search for a UI UX designer, you might come across these titles like a product designer, UI artist, user experience designer, interaction designer, and there are so many of them. And this might leave you confused that what does this mean, what title should I pursue, what course should I pursue if I want to get into design, and which company should I go into, if some companies offering some title, some companies offering some other title. And yeah, as I said, you can just check LinkedIn and you'll find tons of titles over here. And you might feel that what is the meaning of these titles, right? And I want to tell you that the titles doesn't matter. So don't get carried away by the titles. Titles are actually dependent on the organization. Some organizations might call it UI UX design, some organizations might call it interaction design, or a UI artist or anything else. But the job is basically same, designing better experiences. So don't get carried away by the title. But actually there are some real design roles which actually are there, and they do not, it doesn't mean that these are different from UX, but these are all part of UX design. You might come across a title as UX researcher who focus on more of the research side of design. You might be a visual designer or a motion designer who likes to enhance any kind of experience, user experience through visuals or motions. And some of you might have heard about design engineer. What a design engineer helps in doing is take a design and kind of code it or make it more tech friendly, so that the designs can get implemented easily. Then there are things like AR VR design, voice sound design. So there are tons of roles. I mean, even if you go inside design, there are a lot of types of design fields, or I would say sub fields, which you can pursue. The next myth, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there is this term that okay, this is final design and I'm done with it now, and the product is ready. But coming from an industry, from and being able to like work across different type of companies, I can say this for sure that design never ends. It's a process, and we actually call this process as design thinking. If you are interested, you can read a lot more about it, and you can look for the school design thinking process, and you'll come across this um, map which says that we follow these 5 steps when we're designing any experiences. Like firstly, you empathize with your users, you define what the problems are, then you then you create ideas, you create concepts, you make screens, right? And then you make prototypes, then you give it to users, you test, is this working, is this looking fine to them, are they able to understand? And then the cycle goes back again and again. So it's not just a one time process, it keeps on improving. You can look at it in this way that, for example, pasta is, suppose it's an innovative product, and then the cooking class is maybe the design thinking, because you might try few things, experiment, something will fail, something will work. Someone might have a better idea of making it a better flavor. So that's how design works. We don't know that this is the right formula to make it, so we experiment, we try a lot of things, we have lots of ideas and create concepts and test a lot of them. And that's how it works, right? So it's never gonna like it will not have full stop that this is just the final design of the product. A very good example of it is this, I've taken this snapshot from Google Maps, and what you can see is that maps works differently for various experiences. If you're a person who just taking a walk on the street, it will become very friendly for a person who's walking. Then if you are in India, and we all know that there's so much of traffic in India, so you'll automatically, your map will kind of show you where the traffic is, where it's less. So it's adapts to the environment. And similarly, if you're on a bike or if you're on a four wheeler, it your the design of the app adapts to the situation. So do you think this happened in one go? No. So there might be first version of the design, and then looking at the situation, looking at the feedback from users, probably they felt that there should be some new features which needs to be added to the app, and that's how it kind of got built, right? And the third myth with which I've come across a lot of times, and even I used to feel this, that design is a solo activity. If you can just like work on something and give it to other people, and you say that your work is done, but that's definitely not true. As a designer, in if working in any company, you will have to effectively work with other people in the company, like product managers, researchers, developers or engineers, and marketing teams. So you need to kind of work effectively. You need to understand these fields a little bit, not really in depth, but have an understanding of what these fields are. and maybe like to be you should be able to collaborate with people. It's not a solo activity. The bigger company you're working for, you're gonna work with more and more people. So it's a very people friendly job. And lastly, can I get a job as a UI UX designer? I'll say that definitely there are lots of new companies which are coming up, new startup studios, big companies. There are lots of jobs in UX and UI or any kind of design roles, actually, for that matter. So if you're interested, you should like learn these fundamentals, and you should work towards it. And it's definitely possible because it's a growing field. And that's it. That's all I had today. And if you still want to get in touch with me after this, you can write to me on any of these platforms. I am pretty active over here, and I'll be happy to take on any questions. So that's all. um, yep. I hope I didn't go too fast. Let me, yeah.
Hello, ma'am. There are some questions.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we can take them.
Okay, ma'am. So one of them has asked, can you tell some UX projects for their portfolio?
Okay, some UX projects for the portfolio. Um, that actually depends on what stage of your career you are in. Let me assume that you are just starting out. In that case, I will say I'll encourage you to take on any of the existing apps or websites or any of the product which you feel could be improved. Then take it up and define the problems in a better way, the problems which you think are not creating, like it could be better. Why do you think this is not good enough? Define that, and then maybe take up, like, create some concepts around it. And I think that compile that as a good story. And I think that is a kind of good project, and you can actually do multiple projects like that. And that will be a good starting point if you're just starting out as a designer and you just want to build your portfolio and have something for your interviewers or for clients or for anybody else to see. I think that will be a good starting point. Yeah, I
Sure,
hope
ma'am.
that answers.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. And the next one is, what are the main problems or doubts that you face as a UX designer, and some of those solutions that you have encountered?
Hmm. So is this I'm assuming this is in context of being a UX designer, or and not in context of any product or any design. I hope I'm getting it right.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am. Yes.
okay, so in that case, I think there are definitely a lot of challenges, like in any other field. I think in every field you have challenges. For example, that's why I covered those myths. I think few of them are very common. Like, you feel like it's a very solo job. I think solo activity, that is something I think which I see as like a very common thing. Then I think currently I've also started noticing that there's this trend of just making I mean screens and creating designs without any purpose or without a goal. So I see that even I have done that mistake, but I think that's a bad mistake. I mean, that's a big mistake. So I think deep dive into the problems and then design anything. That is one advice. And I also come across designers getting confused with like how to progress in their careers. And I think you should select the content which you're consuming carefully, because nowadays there are tons of content around UX design, just design. So be very like aware of what is the content, how are you learning things. That's very important. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. And many of them have asked that. how should they kickstart their journey? And can you suggest them a learning path?
Hmm. I think a good way to, of course, kickstart is you if you have interest in going into a design school. I will encourage that you do that. Like any college, if you want to pursue and go via the that direction where you want to study design, I think that is, of course, a great direction. If not, then start building your portfolio, start doing some work, start reading and learning. Then I think learn more, I mean, about the theory, about I mean, yeah, like how you can improve your skills. Then secondly, apply for internships. I think are a great way of learning how things work in industry, or how actually things work when you're as a designer. There are a lot of pain points as well. It's not that smooth as it looks like, right? Or take on any client work as well. I mean, you should get real experience. I think that will give you a good taste of what you need to improve on. I'll give you an example that, like, sometimes I see that people have amazing portfolios, but when like sometimes they take on projects, they face a lot of problems when it comes to delivering what is expected from them. It might be that they're asked to do lots of changes. They're not trying to, I mean, they don't understand what the problem is, why they are designing, and maybe like they need to try out various methods of presenting their story better. So a lot of things happen after you start working. So I would say that take on projects, take on internships, so learn via experience, and of course, like, simultaneously read a lot about design. So yeah, I think that will be a good path to take forward to kickstart your career in design.
Okay, ma'am. Let's take one last question. So that is, do big MNCs prefer experienced UI designers, or do freshers stand a chance?
Okay, so there's a mix. There is not a set pattern. There is a mix. Mostly they prefer experience, but there's a mix where I've seen that freshers as join as well. Sometimes MNCs hire from good design colleges, sometimes from outside as well, depending on the kind of work the person has done. So it's definitely not like you cannot apply for it or you cannot get a job. Sometimes it might be a possibility that they don't take you for a full-time job, but they can give you like a part-time thing, or I mean, not part-time, sorry, internship or some kind of contractual position. Even that is pretty good to start with. So there is definitely a chance, but with some experience, of course, it gets better. You have more chance to get into bigger MNCs. But definitely nowadays there are so many opportunities in startups as well, or like studios, or there are lots of companies who have requirements of designers. So I think there are more opportunities now than ever. So yeah, lots of choices for you to start your journey with. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. I think that will be all. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enlightening and entertaining presentation, as well as a questionnaire round. I'm sure the audience must have enjoyed the session as much as I did. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you everyone for joining. Bye. I hope this was helpful. Bye.
Yes, ma'am. Surely it was. Thank you, ma'am.